Intercessory prayer, that is, praying for others, holding up the needs of others to God, is something that many of us in the church struggle with, if not for a period of time, at least from time to time. One of the questions, and maybe we could say concerns, that some have about intercessory prayer is, why would God want to listen to what I have to say? Why would God want to take the time to listen to me? Am I worthy, sometimes we might think, for God to listen to me? And there's a lot of things that people have said over the years to people about just to give them hope or to give them reassurance that God is there, that God is listening. But really, the only assurance that we need of that fact is what we celebrate today, the Ascension. Because part of the reason that Jesus goes up into heaven is to be there, to be able, as we say, to give supplication for us to God. Basically, to be the go-between, to listen to our needs and concerns. And we know that Jesus does that. We know that Jesus does that still, because that's part of why he came down here, is to be among us, to dwell with us. And Jesus heard those concerns and needs we had then, and Jesus continues to do so now. So Jesus ascending into heaven, sitting there on the right hand of God the Father, that's the assurance that we need. That God hears our prayers. And God hears our prayers because Jesus is offering those prayers up to God for us. Some might even say, well, why do we even need to do intercessory prayer? Doesn't God already know everything that we might possibly want or need or have to say? Well, yes, while that is true, Jesus being there with God is a sign to us of the importance of our relationship with God. It's a sign to us that God takes the relationship with us very seriously. Because Jesus could have just stayed on earth and just been there with the disciples, the apostles, all of those who followed them until the end of the world came. Jesus could have done that. But then we wouldn't have this sign of intercession, this sign of God the Son there listening to us and making sure that God the Father hears all these things too. Jesus' presence in heaven is a sign to us that God the Father is still listening to us. That God the Father is always listening to us. It's a sign of the importance of our relationship with God the Father, because Jesus provides that path, that bridge that leads us back to God. And being ascended into heaven, being at the right hand of the Father, is just another way for us to talk about this, to understand this connection that Jesus has restored for us with the Father. So on this day of the Ascension, it may be that you don't really understand what's going on with the Ascension. That's okay. The disciples and the apostles clearly didn't either. It may be that this is something that's hard and difficult to understand in any way, shape, or form. But the importance of this day is the assurance that we have that God is listening to us, that God cares to listen to us, and that we always have somebody there who is making sure that the Father is always listening to any need or concern that we could ever have.